With the win tonight, the Capitals move on to the second round for the first time since 2018.
Your Locked On Capitals, your daily podcast on the Washington Capitals.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Well, hello and welcome into this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name is Dan Holme. I've covered the Capitals for the last 3 seasons for Locked On and various other outlets before that. I'm also the host of the weekly show called The Caps Minute Cast, available wherever you find your podcasts. And as always, I want to thank you for making this your first listen of the day. This episode is brought to you by the Amazon Fire TV Stick 4K. Turn any TV into your Xbox. No console needed. Head to amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to learn more. So in this edition of Locked On Capitals, the Capitals did it. They take it in game number 5 and move on to the second round. Quite an accomplishment for the Capitals, as for the longest time, the Capitals won in 2018, but they're not good enough to make it past the first round. They did that tonight. I'll talk about that a bit later. I'll talk about a key player's return. I'm talking Alexei Protas, a guy that's put up 30 goals this season. What did he mean for the Caps? A bit later, I'll talk about Logan Thompson's impact in this series. There was a lot of questions about Logan Thompson and if he, in fact, would even be playing. What did LT mean for the Capitals? I'll talk about that. Later, I'll talk about Ovechkin getting it done. 20 years in the league, still getting it done. But just to get it going here, the Capitals are, in fact, on to round number 2. For the first time since 2015, clinching a playoff series at home. Capitals fans that are at Cap One Arena, how hyped are you right now with what you just saw from this team? You take a look at the Capitals, you take a look at the physicality and kind of the David and Goliath factor that, the Capitals' perception was that they're just so big and so strong that they're just going to steamroll the Habs. And, all things considered, you take a look at the outcome and you'd think that the Capitals did that. But this series was a lot closer than if you're just looking at the box score or the standings or the playoff standings there, if you will. The Capitals showing up big against a young and scrappy Habs team, a team that is no slouch in the physical department on their own. Arbor Xhekaj, Josh Anderson, these kind of guys, that it wasn't easy for the Capitals. But at the end of the day, the skilled players on this team, coupled with the physicality and just the pedigree of a lot of the players on the Capitals, been there. They've done that. So that is how they got it done. So let's dive into the Capitals as they do it in game number 5. Now, my prediction was that it was going to go to 6. And to be clear here, the key defining moments, like I talked about and Alex Ovechkin talked about, was that Tom Wilson hit on Alex Carrier. That is definitely what pushed the momentum in the Capitals' favor. So the Capitals winning a game at Bell Center, it goes back to Cap One. The Capitals were riding that wave of momentum. Quite an evening for the Capitals. But, you take a look at it. History, like I talked about, 2018, Capitals not doing it since 2018, and then, clinching a series at home for the first time since 2015. So quite an accomplishment by this team. And let's talk about how they, in fact, did it. It wasn't just one guy getting it done, but a complete effort. Logan Thompson, Dylan Strome, LT, these guys that showed up absolutely huge. And then you see the addition of Beauvillier. Tell me if you had a guy like that, a depth move at the end of the day, if you had that on your bingo card going into this series. I didn't. It was a team effort and, due in large part to the masterclass by head coach Spencer Carberry. His first 2 seasons with the Capitals, both seasons making it to the playoffs. Quite stunning what the young guy is able to get done. Now, Alex Ovechkin, though, he did lead the way. He opened up the scoring with a vintage power play one-timer. You want to talk about momentum. that is what really kind of is like, it's for real tonight. Alex Ovechkin, the makings of a movie almost, getting it done, marking his 76th career playoff goal and 4th of the postseason. He's a man on a mission, and he is knocking down a lot of accomplishments this season, catching and passing Wayne Gretzky. Oh, that'd be good enough. Oh, but there's more. He has been absolutely huge for the Capitals in the playoffs. I think he understands what's at stake, that he has the remainder of the playoffs and next year, and then it's kind of off to the great unknown, that he is trying to make the most of this opportunity. And the shot came off a clean faceoff win by none other than Dylan Strome. You take a look at the moves that the Capitals have made over the last few years, and the addition of Dylan Strome was huge. You take a look at that young, rebuilding Blackhawks team that couldn't find any real use for a guy like Dylan Strome. The Capitals said, thank you very much. I think we will add him to our roster, and has absolutely slayed it. Ovechkin's goal flipped momentum after a slow start. You take a look at it, this could have gone in a different direction. The Canadiens, were out shooting the Capitals 8-1. Early on, but the penalty by Yuri Slafkovsky was the turning point. And it's interesting that, you make a mistake here or there, and that can kind of, just change the outcome of the game. Now from there, the Caps took over. Jakob Chychrun made it 2-0. Jakob Chychrun, where, the Ottawa Senators and their fans like, yeah, you can have him. We don't need a home for him, has been huge. Made it 2-0 off another great pass from Pierre-Luc Dubois. Another guy, if you want to just keep going down here, that the Kings are like, get him out of here. The laughing stock of the NHL, at least last summer. Who's laughing now? I'm loving what Pierre-Luc Dubois has meant to this team. And Tom Wilson, again, a power play goal late in the second, his second in as many games. So, almost a changing the guard. Alex Ovechkin kind of just, looking into the future and seeing Tom Wilson as the future captain of this team. Quite an amazing thing. And if we find out that the Capitals, here, in June, I guess, win the Stanley Cup, I believe it. This team has faced some pushback, and it's easy to dive into the negative waters, even when the Capitals lost a single game in this playoff series. But they're finding a way to get it done, and just having faith enough in this team to get it done. My faith has been tested throughout the season, but the one thing I've learned about the 24-25 Caps, don't ever doubt them. And special teams, something that I haven't really wanted to talk about a whole lot. It's been good at some points of this season and absolutely awful at others. The power play went 2 for 3 in game 5. That's good. I mean, obviously 3 for 3 would have been better, but huge for this team. And the PK was perfect. They stayed disciplined, took just 2 penalties and blocked 22 shots, 5 of them by Lane Hutson alone. Hey, that Lane Hutson guy is pretty good, if you haven't noticed. And you could also tell the netminder, Dobesh, just getting frustrated in this game, where he tried to kind of just grab at Nick Dowd there. Nick Dowd's like, not now. I don't need to play that game. We're playing really well now. What was Dobesh trying to do there? He was irritated, for one, because he wasn't playing some of his best hockey, and his team was on the cusp of getting eliminated. That could have, flipped the momentum in the Canadiens' favor. So it's good that the team was able to play tight mentally. Keeping your head screwed on straight is of paramount importance in this game. I really thought that the Canadiens were going to throw the kitchen sink as far as the physicality is concerned. They didn't. And the Capitals were able to walk away victorious. Also, in this game, Dubois and Anthony Beauvillier both led the team with 4 hits. It's sometimes those kind of things as well that have a huge impact. It was heavy, consistent effort from all 4 lines and all 6 D-men. A true team victory. And you want to talk about improbables. I mentioned Anthony Beauvillier, but also Alex Alexiev, a guy that just played several games all season, has stepped up admirably in the absence of Martin Feravari. So absolutely huge what he was able to do. And from Alex Ovechkin himself, he said, quote, "This team stuck together. That's what I've learned," unquote. Ovechkin said post-game, quote, "We always believe you can feel it This isn't just a cameo appearance in the playoffs. The Caps are here to make some noise. And let's hear it, Caps Nation. Let's make some noise. If you're listening to this call right now, in your car right now, or whatever the case, get loud, pound the steering wheel, do some donuts in the parking lot. The Capitals are moving on to the second round. And if you're not hyped, if your pulse is not raised right now, you might not be human. And just think about this right now. To last summer, the Capitals making it to the playoffs, people snickered, people laughed. Some of my other hosts on this network said, we don't know how to tell you this, Dan, but the Capitals aren't good enough. They're getting it down. Now, to be clear here, I am not etching their name on the side of the Stanley Cup right now. What I am saying is this team is riding a tremendous wave of momentum. They got the Hurricanes on deck next. And that is not going to be anything easier either, because if you think about it, they moved on to the next round and they have some firepower on that team as well. But have faith in this team that they can get it done. Like I said, if there's one thing I've learned about the 24-25 Caps, never doubt them. They're up for the challenge, and ultimately, I think they're up to down the Canes as well. All right, so coming up here after the break, we'll talk about the impact of LT, Logan Thompson, the move that was made last summer. We thought we had it all buttoned up. We had Charlie Lindgren or Hunter Shepard and Clay Stevenson. Brian McClellan did the thing that needed to be done. He brought in an elite level netminder that has, in a large way, put the Capitals in the position that they're in right now. What has LT meant for the Capitals? I'll discuss straight ahead. Ever check your banking account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. When I started using Monarch, I realized how much I was spending on food delivery. Now, I budget smarter and save more. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com. Code LOCKEDONNHL for half off your first year. All right, welcome back into this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. You can find me over on Twitter. It's at DanCaps218. You can find the show on Twitter. It's at Locked On Caps. So let's dive into the impact of Logan Thompson. It's interesting around this team that they have just a glut of talent in net, from the NHL all the way down to the ECHL, prospects overseas, that the Capitals decided to go and acquire a netminder last summer. Like I said, we saw that Kemper, didn't really work out with the Capitals, even though he's one of the Vezina finalists in LA. That's rather here nor there. The Capitals have a really great option this year with Logan Thompson. Number one, Charlie Lindgren, kind of a 1A, 1B scenario, but has been absolutely huge in the first round for the Capitals. Improbable, I guess I'm going to say, as he got injured and missed the latter part of the season, but has been absolutely money for the Capitals. Let's dive into that in segment number 2. You take a look at it. A series for the 28-year-old netminder. Game 5 was arguably his best yet. 28 saves on 29 shots. And there was points in this game, especially towards the end, when they pulled their netminder and they had the extra attacker. I thought, this isn't going so well. They were applying a tremendous amount of pressure, and LT stood tall. That's what we love about Logan Thompson, and he was upped for the task, saving 28 of 29 shots, poised with a technical form from puck drop to the final horn. He looked completely dialed in. And, his first game and game one of the playoffs, I said at points that I thought he looked a little bit lost, like he didn't know what he was doing. He got over that in a hurry, tracking everything cleanly, showing great lateral movement, and coming up huge in the final 20 minutes when Montreal was pushing really hard. Now, Martin St. Louis, he was pushing all the buttons that he had in his arsenal, and it wasn't enough. LT was that brick wall in net that only let one get past him. This wasn't a one-off either. Thompson's been solid all series long. Bouncing back from an injury scare in game 4, we thought, we're going with 1B here. I'm here to tell you, it's Charlie Lindgren's good, but there was a lot of concern with me. Is this going to spell the end of the Capitals' run in the playoffs? As it turns out, LT was good to go here. Now, to be clear here, Charlie Lindgren is no slouch in his own right, but I want my 1A guy, if that's how we're going to label these guys, in the net. But he did. He bounced back off that injury scare, only to return with 2 of the biggest games of this season. If you want a guy to be clutch in net, look no further than Logan Thompson. The lone goal he did give up in game 5, a weird deflection off ML Heineman on a sharp angle shot from Joel Armia. Nothing you can pin on the goalie. And like I say, there was some moments that it was, muscle reaction or, just knee-jerk reactions to some of these saves where you could tell he didn't even really see the puck, clearly. He just knew where it was. And that is kind of, the hallmarks of a great netminder. The big thing is he's giving the team exactly what you need in playoff hockey. If we want to look back to 2018, because, hey, we're talking about the playoffs here, it wasn't done with Braden Holtby alone. It was Braden Holtby and Philip Grubauer through the playoff push there. That is what it took to get them across the finish line. But with Logan Thompson, we haven't needed to resort to the 1B or Charlie Lindgren in this situation. Now, you could see the team trusting him. That kind of confidence changes how the D plays in front of you. And you saw that. I think to myself, what would this series have looked like had Sam Montembeault been in net all series long for the Canadiens? I still think the Capitals would have won the series. I do think, however, that the Canadiens would at least have won 1 or perhaps 2 more games. That it's interesting, those things that happen in this series, that Dobesh, all things considered, was a good netminder, a young up-and-coming talent, that came to the U.S. to try to find his way in hockey, and all things considered, was a good option for the Canadiens. I am happy, however, to say that the Capitals had the premier talent of Logan Thompson. Washington blocked 22 shots, yes, but they also didn't have to scramble. Thompson's control and rebound management kept things calm. Calmness is of paramount importance. It's always important, but it was important when the Capitals were playing in a live, loud environment like Bell Center, when players were saying they had a hard time even hearing each other. That when you have that stability, that calm of a guy like Logan Thompson in net, it makes it that much easier. Now, if the Caps are going to make a deep run, they're going to need Logan Thompson playing at this level, and it's really non-negotiable. And right now, he looks like he belongs, and that's the big thing. And, that, I think, in large part is what has put the Capitals in the position that they're in right now, taking it in 5 games. Quite an accomplishment by this team. And, you take a look at it. Had Charlie Lindgren been the guy, I'm here to tell you, I don't know necessarily if they would have won the series. They may have. But when we take a look, a 30,000-foot view of the body of work in Logan Thompson in this series, it is nothing short of stunning. So those moves, those risky moves that former GM Brian McClellan said the Caps made last summer, have paid off handsomely. I'm talking Pierre-Luc Dubois. I'm talking Logan Thompson, Chychrun, Duhaime, Radish, all of these guys. have been absolutely money for the Capitals. Some more than others, but all things considered, absolutely key additions. And, you take a look at it, would the Capitals be in this position without Logan Thompson or some of these other big players? I don't really want to think about it. I'm just glad the Capitals are in the position that they're in. All right, so coming up here after the break, we'll talk about the return of Alexei Protas. There's been rumblings out there for a while. Protas in this game, that game, it came to fruition, and he was playing on the fourth line. What did we notice with Alexei? I'll discuss straight ahead. Did you know your Fire TV is also an Xbox? Turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with Fire TV Stick 4K devices. No console required, just grab your paired controller, subscribe, or sign into Xbox Gameplay Ultimate in EA Play included, and you're ready to go. Dive into hundreds of premium titles, including EA Sports College Football 25 to Call of Duty, as easily as you stream your favorite shows. What if you could jump into your favorite Xbox titles without needing your console in every room? How do you game when you're not in front of your main setup? Hotel stays, family visits, or even just the bedroom. Fire TV Stick 4K makes it possible to keep playing from almost anywhere. Already have a console? A Fire TV Stick 4K device is more affordable and easier to travel with, allowing you to take you or your kids' games wherever you plug in. And it is the face of the future and present of entertainment. So head to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to get started. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatibility controller required. Available on select devices, including Fire TV Stick 4K 2nd Gen, Fire TV Stick 4K Max 1st and 2nd Gen, and Fire TV Cube 3rd Gen. All right, welcome back into this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It is your team every day. So Game 5 saw the return of Alexei Protas, and quite a game that he had. All things considered, he was coming off a long-term injury, I guess I'm going to say, for the most part, and he played admirably. And there was talk about who was going to be in and who was going to be out. As it turns out, it was Radish and Alexei Protas, who, generally speaking, played on the first and second line for the Capitals, played on the fourth line, kind of just easing him into the waters here. And when Emily Kaplan was talking with Spencer Carberry, he said that he thought that Protas looked good, that he didn't notice any really slowness in his game at all, that he was just able to play nearly flawlessly, if you can believe it, even after missing a substantial amount of time. Now, you take a look at it. This series was won without Alexei Protas, and I still do believe that the Capitals would have won the series, even if he didn't return tonight. But it is key. I think that when the Capitals are playing against what I'm going to say stiffer competition, and on deck is the Hurricanes, that they're going to need a guy like Alexei Protas to make it that much easier, I guess, for I'm going to say to skate away into victory lane so they can even move on to the next round after that. So let's dive into Alexei Protas and how he makes his presence known back from a skate cut injury that had him out all the way back since April 4th. Protas returned to the fourth line in Game 5, taking Radish's spot, and wasted no time showing why he's such a valuable piece to this lineup. And he just is such a great skater, and he has such great instincts. And, I guess I'm not talking about in this game in particular, but what we've seen from him all season long is putting himself in the right position, posting up in front of the opposing netminder, screening and looking for second and third opportunities to deflect or knock it in. And like I said, not just that, a great skater, a great shot, and I think making his return at just the right time. And the thing of it is, playing him on the fourth line is they wanted to ease him into action. They didn't want to put him on the first line where he was going to be seeing that kind of money, but still a tremendous amount of responsibility for him, playing with Nick Dowd. That fourth line, which has been absolutely huge for the Capitals all season long, that it is not considered a demotion. In a lot of ways, it is one of the best lines 9 times out of 10 for the Capitals. He played responsible minutes, helped kill penalties, created space with his big frame, and contributed to puck possession at 5-on-5, exactly the kind of low-maintenance, high-effort game you want in a playoff bottom six forward. Now, how do I think this is all going to shake out in round number 2? That's where it gets more intriguing, that Anthony Beauvillier has played so well for the Capitals. How do you tell him, you played well in this first round, but now that Protas is back, you're going to go down to the third line or the fourth line. How does Spencer Carberry handle this? You got to think that, Anthony Beauvillier has played well, but just based on the numbers, the goals scored, and just how he's put himself in the right place at the right time throughout the entire season, you got to think that Protas will most likely get slotted back where he was before the injury. So that is definitely going to be one of the storylines to follow. Now, he didn't look rusty. Instead, he was smart, composed, and willing to do the dirty work along the boards. And on the back check, he's part of the growing wave of younger Capitals making a name for themselves in the postseason. Who else is in that conversation? Connor McMichael, these kind of guys, these players that seemed like, they were brewing for quite a while down in Hershey, that Connor McMichael, it's finally his year. And Alexei Protas is just grown by leaps and bounds this year. Almost in a lot of ways, like, who is this guy and where has he been the previous seasons? I think it is confidence. I think that Spencer Carberry puts him in the right situations, and ultimately why he has thrived in this environment. And, I know that this is a segment talking about Protas, but in a future episode, just to marvel at what Spencer Carberry has done, not with just Protas, but the entire roster. That's why he's the front runner for the Jack Adams, doing just amazing work with the roster that he has. Protas might not show up every highlight reel, but his return adds depth and balance. If he continues to elevate his games, the Caps can roll 4 lines effectively. And it's not really like they weren't able to do that before. I just think that, with the roster, with, Beauvillier or whoever's going to be in the lineup, that I think that they have 4 formidable lines. And I think that is ultimately going to be huge for the Capitals in round number 2. So, everything's coming together at just the right time. My fear in this series was that the Habs were going to be out for blood, considering the big hit, especially I'm talking on Carrier and just the other hits, Evans, those kind of players that I'm glad it didn't happen. That all things considered, minus the players that we know for sure are out. We can stop talking about Faravari. We know for sure he's not going to be back. That this team, as sketched out, is going to be good to go for round number 2. We don't have a whole lot of information as I record this at midnight Eastern, other than to say that we know who it is. But it'll be interesting to see, exactly what days the games are getting played on and all the specifics. Of course, I will have you guys covered on Locked On Capitals the entire way. All right, once again, I want to thank you for joining me on this victorious edition. Come on, Capitals fans, one more time. Let's hear it. The Capitals do it. They knock out the Canadiens, and they move on to the second round. I still marvel at that. Good enough to win in 2018, but not good enough to do it. Silence. They did it. The destiny, their fate is ultimately in their hands. Are the Capitals up for it? I think they have what it takes. All right, once again, I want to thank you for joining me on this edition of Locked On Capitals, your only daily year-round podcast covering the Capitals. And I want to thank all of you that listen on the audio side and watch this on YouTube. You are what makes this show successful. When you're done here, head on over to Locked On NHL, as they have you covered 5 days a week. Available wherever you find your podcasts and on YouTube. All right, once again, I want to thank you for joining me on this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It is your team every day. My name is Dan Holme, and I'll talk to you again next time.